Oh no, let's see if I can come on here. I think you can hear me out there. Um, so we're gonna go into live screen here. We are having all sorts of technicalities today, which is kind of interesting because the topic today is oh there. At least I can get this screen over. I think. Well, there's one screen, and as you can see here, um, I'm at a guest today. Um, we're going to remove this from scene here. And we're without a background here. Let me see if I can get the background photo back out again and get my dynamic screen back up. This is interesting. This is an interesting show today. Welcome. You are watching the PedrozaTravel show today. And we are here talking about maintaining positivity. Hello, Destination Fun. It's good to see you. And hopefully, oh, I see my guest. I was starting to wonder about my guest today. Let's see if I can bring up my guest here. We're trying to get you into the scene, Mike. I see my guest back here. The topic for today is maintaining positivity while traveling. And I think I'm going to learn a lot from this lesson today because I need to be able to maintain my guest up on the screen. And I can't get him up on the screen. I can see you. I can hear you, Mikey. You're back there. Hey, we got embarkation in the house. We have people. Let me see if I can bring you up to. Let me see if I can replace you up here. I am learning this software, Mike, in the background. Mike, I'm trying to. I see you there. I need to add you to pro screen. Up. I think I did it. I think I got you there. Let's see. It's not the transitional background. Okay, you're on live. Yay. I got him
Yay!
up there. Hello. This is Mikey from the Mikey Story. And we are
Thank you very
talking
much.
about maintaining positivity and manifesting travel goals
Yeah.
here at the PedrozaTravel. Thank you so much for coming on
Yes.
board, Mikey.
Thank you
Mike,
for having me.
Mike is all coming from us all the way from London, England, folks.
Yes, indeed.
So we are so excited to have you on board. Um, I have lots of questions for you.
Fire
And
away.
so we got the topic, but I can't have a guy all the way from London, England on my show. I just got questions. You're like on the other side of the pond.
Yeah.
And if you can hear him here, you have no accent, Mike. Like you are not you don't have the British accent. So what's your story? Where did you come from? Are you from London, England?
Okay, so I'll give you my short, somewhat elevator pitch. All right.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Bring it on.
Right. Um, so I was born right here in London.
Hmm.
Both of my parents are from Trinidad and Tobago. I also lived in Trinidad for about 12 years, then moved to Brooklyn, New York.
Ah,
Spent,
okay.
yeah, then spent about, I would say, about a good 16 years out there. Then moved to Orlando, Florida, home of Mickey Mouse.
Oh, okay. We got some Florida people in the house right now.
All right, all right, all right. And and then I spent another couple of years, and I was like, okay, well, you know, here I'm making it a circle back here in London.
Nice. And you're kind of going even farther because this is West Coast. You're talking to California here
Awesome.
on the West Coast here. And I just want to give a shout out to Sarah from My Flock is Everywhere who is out in the chat today. I was going to have her on today just to say
Yes.
hello to her. She's my friend from California, but it looks like she's lost her voice. I totally understand. I actually got sick like last week myself, and was not able to talk, but luckily it came back for my live stream for
Yes.
last week, so that was nice. But she's going to help us out with moderator duties today. If you can get some links out there, Sarah, We do have some people on the chat I see there. So thank you so much for coming, Sarah. Oh, and we got Bill from Warmstrong Adventures in here. Bill, I blame Bill for this software here because he got me in. So you were born, you said, in Trinidad and Tobago. Is that what I just heard?
No, no. I was born here in London.
You were born here in London, but then you went to Trinidad and Tobago, and then
Right,
you went to Brooklyn
right.
in New York. Yeah, I can hear the Brooklyn accent. So like when
Yeah.
you said that, I was like, that's where it's coming from. Because no, you have a great accent. I love it. I love it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what made you decide to go back to London? Just because that was your home, or what was the deal there?
Well, to be honest, at the time that I was in Orlando, um, I had been going through a couple of changes, and of course, because I'm a natural citizen here, it only made sense that I came here um, as part of the change to say, let me jump ship and somewhat start over, and which I didn't mind because I myself am somewhat of a chameleon, anyways. So yeah,
Well, I have noticed that in your channel, actually. Your
yeah.
channel is very good.
Thank you.
For those who do not know the Mikey Story channel, hashtag booyah, right?
Yeah.
Hashtag booyah on your channel. I encourage you to go out there and look for his channel. He has a great channel. And what I kind of like, well, I kind of know my next question because I've checked out your channel many times,
Okay.
as you know, and given comments. But even though I know what your channel is about,
Right.
I want to know why the YouTube channel. Why did you decide to go this route?
Okay. So let me kind of give you there's a backstory actually. Okay. So originally, and this was, oh my gosh, this was like maybe like in the uh, I want to say in the early, no, no, in the late, in around 1999, maybe 2000, somewhere around there, somewhere around that era. um I had a YouTube channel, but at that time, the way things were set up with YouTube, it's not the same as it is now, right?
No, the landscape has definitely changed a lot,
Right.
for sure.
So, so, also just to give a little context as far as uh, things about me. Aside from the channel that you see, I am a professional musician, songwriter, and producer.
Oh
And
wow, I did
yeah,
not know
yeah,
that
yeah,
about you.
yeah,
Nice.
yeah. So I actually started a channel about myself as a musician. And so, um, you know, with when you do music, it's a very it's a slow burn. It's a slow burn. Okay.
Hmm.
But here's the thing. Now, at that time, I was trying to do like different things. Okay. And then I just started like showing another side of me, like if I would travel or do this or do that, seemingly, you know I would get like views.
Well, I noticed you did a series where you went to Thailand, I
Yeah,
believe it was. And
yeah.
that Thailand series is excellent, by the way.
Thank you, thank you.
Underrated, but if you want to see some great Thailand videos, check out the Mikey story for that. That
Thank you,
series,
thank
that
you.
trip that you did was interesting.
Yeah,
Most of your videos is about your hometown, and I totally get that. I totally encourage people to explore their hometown.
yeah.
But then I also think it's great that you kind of went out of your comfort zone on that one. So that was pretty interesting. Oh no, we lost him. Come back. Are you there? Okay, he's
Yeah, I'm
there.
here, I'm here.
Yeah, you were out of your comfort zone on that one. And
Well,
so,
yeah. So like I was saying, was that on that particular channel, even though it's based on me being a musician, But seemingly, when I would put out that kind of content, it would pick up the views. But the problem with me picking up the views is that I would get the audience, but the audience is not interested in me being as a musician. They're not. You know, they're interested in the fact that I'm showing this and I'm showing that, or I'm out showing some carnival and you see, women doing their thing and men doing their thing and all this stuff and blah, 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 blah. And, that's what they seem to love. And, and like I said, it picks up, right? But after a while, when I realized with YouTube, that they're making the changes and how they're pushing and promoting things, it actually was hurting my channel. Then it was
Like the wrong audience, maybe?
right. So it was hurting my channel. Then it was benefiting. You see what I mean?
Yes.
So I realized after doing some research that if I'm going to do that type of stuff, then I need to do something that's dedicated and focused strictly on that. Now, you can have things that are related to what you're talking about, in any kind of form, and that's fine. But as long as it's within that realm, then YouTube will kindly push it out to the very people that watch that kind of stuff.
And that's an
So,
interesting aspect. It's always hard to get to your right target audience.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
So, yeah, so to top it off, I realized after a while that there is a market for me just showing my lifestyle, vlogging, and traveling and making it all in one. I noticed there is a market for it. So, and also too, I'm at a point in life where I'm like, you know what? I just want to share my life and I just want to share my story.
mhm.
And like I said, because I realized there is a market for it, so why not, start a channel showing that side of me and showing travel and showing all the different things that the market that's catered to that they'll definitely want to tune in and check it out.
Yeah, well, definitely, definitely. This is a travel channel, and travel channel is what the Pedrosa channel is all about.
Yes, yes,
And so getting into that market is really tough, and getting to your core audience. It's interesting on my travel journey that I've noticed that, I mean, travel can be anything. You could be a cruise channel, you could be a
yeah,
Disney channel and
yeah,
talk about channel, you could be into archaeology, and that's
yeah,
travel.
yeah,
There's all sorts of realms of travel.
yeah.
So it kind of blends into my next question. Where do you see your channel going in 5 years? Like in 5 years, where would you like to be with your YouTube travel journey?
In 5 years, the good Lord, let it be His will. Past 1 million subscribers.
Okay, you hear it first, folks. The Mikey story, 5 years, 1 million views. And you'll take me
past
along with you,
past
right?
1 million subscribers.
1 million subscribers, and you'll take me along with you, right?
No problem, man. Come on, man.
We'll all go together. We'll go
Come on, John.
together. Man, I'll manifest that. We're talking about manifestation today. We'll manifest that one for you.
All right, all right, all right, John.
You heard it here,
I'm
folks.
hey, I'm counting on you, John. I'm counting
February
on you.
12th, 2028, 1 million subscribers for the Mikey story.
All right. So tell you what. Let's
Okay.
do this, okay?
Okay.
All right. So today, right? So everybody mark the calendar, right?
Mhm.
So 5 years from now, John and I are going to come back on this particular day and we're going to see exactly where we at 5 years from now. All right? Mark your
Okay, I will
calendars.
do that with That's awesome, but I will do that with the caveat like I would totally love doing a collaboration video with you one day before that
Yeah,
time
yeah, yeah.
is.
Of course, of course, of
Yeah,
course,
I
of
don't know.
course.
I told you I got to get out there to London, England. I'm totally going out there, and
Yeah,
when I
yeah,
go,
yeah.
I'm gonna bug you. I'm gonna be like, I'm that guy, and you're going, I don't know that guy at all. You're gonna be like, hey, Bobby, this guy's following me. It's this
Exactly.
person following me. Yeah.
I love it. I
Oh
love it.
man. Oh, thank you for sharing now. Yeah, if anybody's out there and like to share out the channel, we'd appreciate it.
Yes,
You
yes,
are here
yes,
on the Pedroza channel, and we're talking about maintaining positivity and
yes.
overcoming obstacles. So, one last question before we get into the topic that I like to ask my guests a little bit. So, this is a travel channel, but I personally believe in traveling always. So,
Yeah.
if you could travel back into time and you could talk to anyone in time to have a meaningful conversation, who would that be and why?
Ooh, good question.
Yeah.
Okay. Ooh, ooh. Um, if I could travel now, even though this is not that far off in terms of time, if you understand what I'm saying, if I could travel back and talk to this one person and have that conversation, Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs, interesting, interesting. And why Steve Jobs?
Because Steve was the kind of person, and this also falls into what we're talking about. He had a knack for
Uh-oh, we
seeing
lost you.
things. Okay,
Can you repeat that? Repeat the last thing that you said.
sure,
He had it, and
sure.
then you dropped out for a second.
Steve Jobs had a knack for seeing things, um, and not only out of faith, but also he knew exactly, when and how things were going to be successful. And so he was that guy that knew that the iPhone and the this and the that, at the time when he was telling people,
I
yeah,
think we
this was going
lost
to
him
be the
again.
new
You keep
wave.
on
Oh,
losing your connection a little bit. I think
okay.
the connection is a little bit hard across the pond there. I lost you for
Okay.
a second there. You said he had the vision, is I think what you said.
Yeah, 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 yeah. He was the kind of guy that um, he he had the kind of knack to be able to see and to know that certain things that was going to work, even if it was at its beginning stages.
Yes. Yes. No, the vision is important. Having a vision of where you want to go, I think, is a very important aspect
Yeah.
to not just travel, but all life. Anyways, I'd like to welcome in Freelancing Tips for Beginners by Christy Angelo. Hello, my sister Christy. I am so happy to have you here. Sister Christy Angelo, she comes from the Philippines and she gives good tips about how to be a good YouTuber. I saw
All
her last
right.
video. Her
Well,
last
hello to
video.
you.
Yeah, hello, Christy. We are
Hi,
happy to
Christy.
have you. We are happy to have you here on the channel. Um, yeah, I saw your last video out there, Christy. You gave a great video on the being realistic with your YouTube expectations. And I think that's a very good video topic because
Okay.
I think there's a lot of people out there that are like, oh, I'm going to join YouTube and I'm going to get 1 million subscribers and I'm going to become rich and I'm going to become like the next Casey Neistat or I'm going to become, I don't know, the next PewDiePie. And the reality is, yeah, you might be that. You might be that, but you need to put in the work first.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah,
And let me just expand upon let me expand upon that point. For anyone who would like to do YouTube, just like with what John is saying, it's nice to have the vision, and that's why I picked Steve Jobs, right?
yeah,
But you have to have the kind of consistency and tenacity that it's going to take to reach there, because not everybody is going to reach there. And that's why, if you look at the statistics in terms of how many people who are on YouTube who probably have the same goal of the 1 million subscribers and all of the accolades that comes with being the YouTuber and all the goals of what they want to do being a YouTuber, you'll notice that percentile of those that reach there, it's very small, and it's for a reason. you
Well,
know and
it's
it's and it's and
competition.
it's and let me just say this, and it's not for a negative reason. No, 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 let's be clear. It's not for a negative reason. It's only because it's one of those things that you really have to put in the time, put in the effort. You got to upload. Casey Neistat said it very simply. You just got to upload. You know what I mean? And you have to be able to say, okay, I got to upload and I got to put this and I got to make it interesting. Or, I got to make this video in a way that somebody's going to say, yeah, I get it, or whatever. You know what I mean? Or
Mhm.
even if somebody looks at the video and they're hating it, but guess what? The fact that they're watching the video and they're hating it, that even says something. You see what
You
I'm
know what they
saying?
say? Even bad news is news. So you can do the
Absolutely.
news,
Absolutely.
right? All news is good news. There's no such thing as bad publicity out there. That's a Hollywood
Exactly.
saying.
Exactly.
That's the Hollywood saying.
Exactly. Right?
Yeah.
So, so the reason why that percentile is small, because life happens, right?
Hmm.
And sometimes in life that we get presented with certain challenges, we get presented with certain things. Sometimes even us as people may evolve, and yeah, you might reach a certain point with your YouTube channel where it's really moving, but because you're evolving, you're like, it's time for me to move on to something else. Or maybe the content that you're doing, you just don't have the urge for it anymore and you moved on to something else.
Yep.
It could be a number of things, but you'd be surprised to find out that the people who hit 1 million, if you look at the percentage, it's not as high as you think. But
No.
again, it's not a negative thing. It's just, it takes a lot of consistency, tenacity, but at the same time, you got to be patient.
I think it's a platform. It's a level, it's a platform, and it's a barrier, but it's a barrier, like you say, for a purpose. It's a
Yeah.
barrier for a purpose. And as long as you're willing to go after, I think the opportunity's there, but you do have to go out there. I want to say hello to Bama Nola Adventures. Thank you for coming on the channel. Again, you're watching the Pedroza channel, and we have the Mikey Story here with us, the Mikey Story channel, hashtag Booyah, and we're excited to have you here. Um, we are talking about maintaining positivity while traveling. That is the topic for the day.
Yes.
I am putting up this photo here, and if you've been traveling, you probably know what it's like to travel these days. And
Yeah.
it's not that easy to travel these days. Traveling these days is a bunch of problems. Um, but the question is, how do you maintain positivity while traveling? And probably the first thing that anybody traveling, I think, experiences, unless you drive everywhere, because some people drive everywhere, is probably the airport. And airport involves government regulations.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And so there's a lot of things to make sure that I think that you know about those government regulations. You need to make sure, I think, that you have your basics in order. Make sure that you have all your paperwork in order, first of all. Make sure you
Yeah.
know where your your plane ticket is. Make
Yeah.
sure that you know where your passport is
Yeah.
and all your documentation. If you're going
Yeah.
to cruise, make sure that you have your boarding pass and that you've done
Yes.
all your stuff. You do not want to be that guy on the cruise that is late for the muster drill, right? Yeah, you don't want to be that guy because then the ship can't leave. And the worst thing you want to be is on a ship for a whole week with 2,700 people that don't like you because you made them late for a muster drill. Yeah.
Well, first things first, right? Is I would tell people who want to travel and maintain positivity is you need to lose every kind of what if, negative thinking. You need to clear your head because it's easy to get caught up in I heard this, I heard that, I heard this. But what people don't realize 90% of the times when you're traveling and what you see, that might not be your experience.
Yeah,
So,
what's so interesting about travel, Mike, is that reality and expectations are two very different things when
yeah,
it comes to
yeah,
traveling.
yeah,
Like, how many times have you gone to a place, like, especially like around here, it's all about Mexico. First of all, I wanted to say hello to the Z channel. The Z Man is in the house. Hello, Z. Thank you for coming on the show.
how you doing, Z?
Appreciate Z being here. And thank you, everybody. You are on the Pedroza Channel show. But going back to what I was saying is perception and reality are so different things. And a
Yeah,
perfect example of that for me is Mexico. Whenever I tell my coworkers I'm going to Mexico, they're like, ooh, are you worried that the cartel is going to get you?
yeah,
Or, ooh, you're
yeah,
going to get shot and mugged and
yeah,
robbed.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Or they're like, oh, that's just the place where everybody eats burritos and
Right,
has serapis and
right,
is on a beach. But if you watch my videos, you'll know that it's a lot more than that. It's a
right.
lot. Um, Sorry, my night. I don't know why my bot. I'm trying to experiment with a bot, and my bot is apparently fighting with my moderator. I need to
Oh
tell my
boy, oh
bot to
boy.
stop fighting with my moderator there. I don't know. I just saw a warning. Sorry about that, Sarah. I need to tell my bot to calm down there. I brought on the bot as an experiment, Nightbot, but I need to make sure that Sarah's an exception. Thank you so much for moderating Sarah in the channel
Yeah.
there. But going back to the topic, um,
Ah,
but
ah.
I'm sure has that ever happened to you, Mike, where like somebody tells you, don't go to this place because it's so dangerous. And then you go there and then everybody's like friendly and it's an all happy place.
Well, let me just give you two points of views, right? Yeah, there could be there could be truth to what someone is telling you, but that's why I go back to what I'm saying is that that might not be your experience because in other words, for example, let's say someone says, well, don't go to this town because there's shooting and there's this and there's that, okay? And it could very well be true. But here's what they didn't tell you. What they didn't tell you is where in the town. What also they didn't tell you is who were they with. What they
Yes.
also didn't tell you is what time. You see,
Hmm.
all these factors, you know, will play into the truth about what they're saying. And also, all those factors will also let you know you may not just be in that area anyways.
Yeah. And that's so
You know?
true. That's so true, Mike. True story. True story. I went to a place called Culiacan, Sinaloa,
Yeah.
which is actually the cartel capital of Mexico.
Yeah.
Just so you know,
Yeah.
it's where I don't know if you know much about the
Yeah.
cartels in Mexico, but El Chapo, the famous guy that got jailed and now is in a high security prison
Yes.
in the
Yes.
United States. He's from Culiacan, and I went there just to see what it's like because I'm just crazy sometimes.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
But I went there and like everybody was like, "You're not coming back, John." But I
Right.
went there and it was fascinating. Like, yeah, there are cartels there, but it was the cleanest city that I ever saw in Mexico. It was the cleanest city. Like the cartels ran the city, but it was the cleanest city I ever saw. The people were friendly, but you just needed to know where to go and at what time but I never felt like unsafe at any moment. They
Yeah,
took me
yeah.
everywhere. I got invited into homes and they showed me
Mm-hmm.
food. I even
Mm-hmm.
went to their cemetery, which is crazy. They have this crazy cemetery there where, like, instead of like normal tombstones, they have houses.
Yeah,
They have
yeah,
full on
yeah,
houses
yeah.
that are tombs. And one was like shaped like the Taj Mahal, if you can believe
Mm-hmm.
it, but it had
Yeah,
Wi Fi.
yeah,
Like, why
yeah,
does a dead person
yeah,
need Wi Fi?
yeah, yeah,
And one of them had a full car in it, like the dead person was going to go drive off in their car in the afterlife. I don't know, but it was impressive.
yeah,
But it was
yeah,
all okay. It was like
yeah,
how it worked.
yeah,
Yeah. So, um, yeah, perception and reality in travel, I think, is a very important
yeah.
thing.
Now I will say this in fairness that
Yeah.
you do need to be aware of certain things. Yes, you do, because you don't want to be naive and you don't want to be foolish, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Do not be
so
foolish.
so there are certain areas in certain towns that you wouldn't want to go to simply because the town might attract certain people, and because especially if you're not a local and those people can spot you a mile away as a foreigner,
Mhm.
you know they got you, they got
They
you.
do. They do. They definitely got you. And that brings into a different topic and that I want to talk to you is as a traveler, you always need to be aware of the hustle and bustle of the area that you are visiting.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
that is important that you're aware of the hustle and bustle. One of the most common scams that happens to you while traveling is just distracting you from your personal awareness. If you get into a crowded area, you think, "Oh, I'm in a crowd. I'm safe." No, you're not always safe. Watch your pockets because if there is all of a sudden a commotion, thieves will actually play on that and they'll
yeah,
go after those people because while you're looking at what's happening, what you'll see some like major commotion going on,
yeah,
that's when the pickpocketer is putting his hands in your pocket, or
yeah,
that's when the pickpocketer is knifing your purse.
yeah,
So be aware, as you say, of your surroundings, and that's going to help.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know how it is in London, England, but I know there's lots of places in Europe that you go to. Rome was one. Rome is beautiful, and some of the
yeah,
there's
yeah,
so many plazas there in Rome. It's a very
yeah,
beautiful place,
yeah.
but you need to be aware of your surroundings when you're in
Yes,
Rome,
yes, yes.
because I think they call them the gypsies there, the Roma people. Hate to say it, but if you're not watching it, they're gonna take a dollar or two out of your pockets.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so,
But at the same time, I don't want to. I don't want to be negative per se, but at the same time, I also want to just say that you definitely need to be aware of your surroundings, and not in a way where it's like fear. No, it's just to be aware of, okay, I see this, I see this, I see this, so I know, okay, if this is what I want to do, right, I need to, you see what I mean? That's all it is. It's just awareness. It's not trying to put negative thoughts in your head, because unfortunately, the minute you do that, I'm telling you, you're gonna attract exactly what you're thinking, which goes to what we're talking about, positivity. And that's the same thing with life, right? That how you see things generally is what you attract, right?
yes, for sure. And I just highlighted Bill's comment there. Yeah, that happens in any major city in the
Yeah,
United
yeah,
States.
yeah,
It's everywhere. It's
yeah,
everywhere.
yeah,
But I think that goes back to what you said there, Mike. I think it goes back to what you think of, I think really will help you attract what you
yeah,
want.
yeah,
Which goes over to our whole entire theme on this show today is
yeah,
how to manifest your travel desires. I think almost everybody, at least maybe it's because of the me, I'm always talking about travel, but most people that I talk to about travel are like, oh, that's amazing that you went to this place, or oh, that's amazing that you went to that place. And then I'm like, and then they're like, how did you do that? And I'm like, oh, it wasn't really hard. You just do this or that. And like, and then they say, oh, I could never do that. The moment that they say I can never do that, I think they made a negative manifestation, and I think that might have been a
Yeah,
mistake on their
yeah,
part.
yeah,
And I think we need to make sure that we avoid that. If you want something, then say that you want it. I do
yeah,
believe very strongly that in the universe, we will attract what we put out there. So
right,
if you want to travel a lot, just tell everybody that you want to travel a lot. I think the
yeah,
universe wants to help us. I think the
yeah,
universe wants to help us out there and overcome those obstacles that might hurt us out there. So, surprisingly, one of the obstacles, well, I'm going to put it this one up just because I know this is going to make Sarah laugh. And one of the obstacles that we have while traveling is getting sick while traveling.
mm-hmm.
And that is definitely an obstacle. So, how can we overcome sickness while traveling? I'm just putting that one up there as a joke because
Sure.
I know my wife is everywhere sick right now, so I hope she gets
Yeah,
better.
yeah. Well, there's one is if you go, for example, for example, like with the climate, right, or the food, because that's 90% of why people who travel why they get sick. It's either climate or food, right?
Hmm.
Now, just based on those two, so if you know you're going to go to a climate where you're not used to that climate, then make sure you wear the proper clothing, or that you set yourself up in a way to say, I'm ready for it. All right. But also too, if you know that, for example, I know some people who they don't like a whole lot of sun and things like that. So, you know, wear like a hat, or wear colors that won't attract the sun, things like that. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
In terms of food, I always say, always go with what you know, right? Because sometimes if you go with things that you're not familiar with, it can be tricky.
Yeah, it can be tricky, but I would say I will add one small bit to that, Mike, and I will say don't go always with what you know, but I would say go with where the locals go. The locals are
Well,
not
I'll
going to
tell you
get.
why I say that. Right, I'll tell you why I say that. Right, because you have to remember that if I give example, if you're used to eating fries, hamburger, hot dog, and chicken McNuggets, right? And you go to, for example, the Caribbean, like Jamaica or someplace, right?
Hmm.
Now, even though they have that stuff there, but that's not the local food, right? And if how they're preparing it and how they're making it is not at least similar to how you are normally eating the burger and the fries and the this and the this, that's why I say it can be tricky, because you don't know if your system might accept, or it might kick it out, or it could just be food poisoning altogether.
Good old Moctezuma's revenge is what you're going to get. Um, for those who don't know, Moctezuma's revenge is another way of saying diarrhea.
Right. So here's the thing, right? So now, even though with me, I'm generally open to a lot of different foods. So as far as me eating foods, um, I always try to stick with, foods that I know. And if I don't know something, I always try to see how are they preparing it. Because if I'm not familiar with how they're preparing it and I don't know what's going on, I wouldn't take the risk. And I'll tell you why. Because, for example, if you're not there for, let's say, uh, a couple of weeks, right? And you're just there for like 2 days, and you get food poisoning on the day that you're supposed to travel. Woo wee! Oh my God, that is the worst feeling in the world.
Yeah.
You know, and especially at the rate things are going with traveling these days, you don't want to travel when you're sick. It's not a good idea.
Hey, Sarah, I see your message out there. You just got to last. We got 18 more minutes on this show. If you can last 18 more minutes, we're good. You're doing a great job out there, Sarah. Thank you for being our moderator today on the Pedroza
Salute to
Travel
you.
Show. She's sending out all those links, and I hope everybody's sharing out the show. I hope you're
Salute.
enjoying
Thank you
the
so
show.
much. Thank you so much.
We're here with the the Mikey story, and we're
Yes.
talking about overcoming travel obstacles and maintaining positivity while
Yes.
traveling.
Yes.
And one thing I will also say about food, one tip that I will give is make sure that you're looking for places that have fresh food. That the food turnover is high. You never want anything that's been stagnant, that's been sitting for a long time,
Right. Exactly.
because that's going to hurt you too. I like to look for stalls that are popular,
Yeah.
and if the it's popular, people will know where the good places are. You might not
Yeah.
know where the good places, but the
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
will know. So
Yeah.
I tend to
Yeah.
go over to that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Bam Manola, for being subscribed. I am subscribed to you. I encourage everyone out there in the comments section to make sure to check out. I'm not into sub for sub, but I'm definitely into networking on channels. So if you would
Yeah.
like to network on this channel,
Yeah.
by all means, please do. I think that's good for everybody when we learn, because everybody has like their own
Yeah.
special
Yeah.
take on their channels, and I enjoy
Yeah.
looking at all the channels, whether it be a cruising channel,
Yeah.
whether it be traveling around England, whether it be looking
Yes.
at birds. I'll look at everything as long as it's
Yes.
interesting. That's what
Yes.
YouTube's all about.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
And going and talking about networking brings me into my next topic of conversation, and that is overcoming loneliness. Now, this is kind of a funny one, because you wouldn't think that traveling you would be lonely, but it happens. I don't know if this has ever happened to you, Mike, but it definitely has happened to me, where like
Um.
that I have felt lonely while traveling. Has that ever happened to you? Or maybe I just need to go on with the topic on my own here.
Well, let me. All right. So let me put it to you this way. Um. If you're traveling, by yourself, okay. Um. It can be lonely, but at the same time, um, in order for you to be the kind of traveler that's traveling by yourself, you have to be somewhat of an extrovert, because um, if you're more of an introvert traveling, it's not going to work. It's not going to work, right? If you're somewhat of an extrovert, no problem. Or if you're an extrovert, then even greater, because you're the kind of person that will get out and you'll talk with people, and you know once you're talking with people, you're getting to know, that whole feeling of lonely, you're not even thinking about it. You're just enjoying the moment, right?
Mhm.
And also too, um, so I'll put it to you this way. The only time it's been lonely for me, and I'm just going to be transparent, for a little minute. is when you're a single person and you want to feel like you're sharing this moment, while it's all happening. That's the only times it can get lonely. But I can pretty much tell you that it, even with that time, it really doesn't last, because by the time you get on to the next day, you don't forgot about it.
Well, that's great. That's a very positive way of doing it. I have it's interesting. I am married. I have a wonderful wife
Yeah.
and a son who's 15. And you'd think traveling with them I would not be lonely, but sometimes I'll admit that I get lonely while I travel just because you are out of your comfort zone. And I think being out of your comfort zone is a good thing in general, but it
Yeah.
can be an
Yeah.
obstacle sometimes
Yeah.
because you're just not at home. I'm not, when I'm traveling, I'm not in California. I don't
Right.
have my car, I don't have my bed,
Right.
and quite frankly, the cultural differences can be quite big. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll put up a picture here. This is a picture of the Hagia Sophia in Istanbul, Turkey.
Mm-hmm.
And so 3 years ago, I was able to go there and visit. It's an amazing space.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
thousands of years old. It actually used to be a Christian church. That's how the Hagia
Mm.
Sophia started. The Hagia Sophia was actually one of the first Christian churches ever in the world in the
Mm-hmm.
year 300. And then in the 1400s, it was captured by the Ottomans
Okay.
and turned into a mosque, and then Ataturk came and turned it into a museum, and now it's back to being a mosque. Beautiful
Oh.
place. If you want to see some early Muslim and early Christian
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
denominations, is there. But I put up the picture because it's a different religious place, and this is Sunday. It's a different religious place that
Mm-hmm.
it's not like a regular traditional church. At least not a traditional church that I'm used to.
Yeah.
Maybe if you're
Yeah.
Muslim, it's very traditional. But for me, it was quite different, and I point that out because Turkey was a wonderful place to visit, but
Yeah.
culturally it was way out of my league. Like culturally it was way out there. I don't speak Arabic,
Yeah.
I don't speak Turkish, and
Yeah.
I don't know any of the Muslim ways. But you know what was great about is the people were very nice, and they taught you everything you need to know. Like for
Yeah.
example, you just can't go walking into that church with your shoes on. You have to
Yeah.
take your shoes off when
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
walk into a mosque.
That's right. That's right.
And then you need to learn how they pray. For example, in Turkey, when the call for service goes out, and I believe it goes out like 4 times a day,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
everything stops there. Everything stops.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think for me in that moment, I at first I did feel a little bit lonely, but then I had to learn that there are some cultural differences. Humans are humans, but we have different cultural tendencies, and I think it's important that we respect and acknowledge those cultural
Mm-hmm.
differences. And then if we learn those things, if we learn the culture, then you can be more integrated into that society, and you
Mm-hmm.
will enjoy your travel more. And so that's what
Well,
I
right.
learned in Turkey.
Right.
I
Right.
learned that if I
Right.
learn the customs and I learn the local ways, I will feel more integrated. And that's how I overcame loneliness in Turkey, was just by learning more about the culture. So I would encourage people out there to do that. Otherwise, you're going to be, like you say, they know that you're a foreigner. You look different. You're always going to look different
Right.
out there.
Right. Right.
But if you integrate yourself, I think you open up opportunities, and I think
Yeah.
that's really important.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this one kind of seems like a no-brainer, but one thing that can happen is that you could run out of money while traveling, and that's an obstacle. So running out of money is a horrible thing to do. You
Yes.
never want to run out of money while you're in a foreign country or anywhere. Actually, I don't want to go across the
No.
street without running
No.
out of money.
No. No.
And so
No.
you need to make sure, I think, I don't know, has that ever happened to you? Have you ever run out of money? Um,
Um, I'm trying to think. I haven't run out of money, but I've come to a point where I've spent majority of the money to the point where it was like, I couldn't really do too much.
Hmm.
So the only thing I could do was just hold on until I get to the airport and get on the plane, and it's like, all right.
Yeah. Well, there and that goes to a good point too. I'll tell you. I'll go to that point and then I'll go on to a story where if you are traveling anywhere, make sure that you have a safety buffer zone so
Yeah,
that you can always go back to where you came from.
yeah, yeah.
Whether you're traveling short term, if it's a week, or you're traveling long term,
Mm-hmm.
make sure that you have a little bit of extra money set aside so that you can get back to the airport. Make sure you have a ticket back home.
Yeah,
Even if you're thinking about becoming like an expat where you're going to like move to a city permanently,
yeah,
have a rainy day fund because there might come a time, and the pandemic taught me this, that you won't be able to travel and you'll need to get back to home. Wherever
yeah,
home is,
yeah,
you need to
yeah,
get back there.
yeah,
I had a lot of friends that were down in Argentina that when the pandemic hit,
yeah.
Argentina kicked out all of its foreigners.
Wow,
So all
wow.
the foreigners that were in Argentina at the time, they had to leave immediately within a month, 30 days
Mm-hmm,
they
mm-hmm.
had. And so some of them struggled because they had they didn't have enough money to get home on.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Argentina is not the easiest place to get home from because it's not a worldwide
Wow.
hub. So make sure you have that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing I was going to tell you about a story about how when I was in Guatemala, actually,
Yes.
Guatemala is an interesting place. I don't know if you've ever been to Guatemala, but
No.
the Guatemala airport is in Guatemala City, which is the capital of Guatemala. But there's
Mm-hmm.
not much in Guatemala City, is what I found out.
Okay. Okay.
And I was traveling from the U.S. I traveled from the U.S. to Mexico to Guatemala, and I arrived at this airport, and it was a very small airport, and there was an exchange booth inside the airport, but I didn't like the rate of exchange for the money there,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
so I didn't exchange any money because I thought that there was going to be an ATM machine like in Mexico. In the United States, you can, I don't know if it's like this in London, but you can find an ATM. I know that Europe is like this. You can find an ATM usually anywhere.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
I actually have a Charles Schwab card. It's an international debit card. I really like the Charles Schwab card because it allows me to use an ATM card. If there's an ATM anywhere in the world, I can use my Charles Schwab card.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
and the nice thing about that one card is I get the bank rate. I don't have to do the exchange rate. I can get the bank rate with my Charles Schwab card. So it makes
Mm-hmm.
taking out currency, exchanging currency very cheap. So I thought I was going to do that in Guatemala, but guess what? When you get out of the airport in Guatemala City, there are no ATMs. There's no nothing.
Wow.
There was
Wow.
nothing. And so I was in this country with no local currency.
Wow.
It was crazy. I basically had to I knew the language. Luckily they know Spanish. And so what I ended up having to do is I had to go to a taxi and I had to convince a taxi cab driver to drive me to a bank to exchange money because I didn't have any bank. Luckily in that case I was saved, but I could have at least exchanged a few dollars into Guatemalan money.
Yes.
Quetzales is what they call it. I should have done that. I should have prepared.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because you really don't want to be in a foreign country without money. That was
Yeah.
probably one of like a scary travel adventure that I had is being I was past immigration, and once you leave the Guatemalan airport, they do
Mm-hmm.
not let you back in. That's the security.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
You
Yeah.
cannot go back inside. So I couldn't go back to that really expensive exchange guy. So luckily I did not get I was asking, and most of the taxi cab drivers, you tell them, "Oh, can you drive me to this bank to get money?" They're like, "What? Like I'm gonna do what for you?" But I did
Mm-hmm.
find one, and I got there, and so I was saved, and I didn't end up having to spend the night in a Guatemalan airport. So that was my travel story. Always make sure you do your currency exchange ahead of time. I don't know how it's like in England, but you can sometimes at the bank exchange money ahead of time. So make sure that.
Oh yeah. There's tons of ATM. Ton like for example, even with money exchange, you don't have to do that at the airport. There's loads and loads of outlets, and You can even do that at the post office and exchange money. And even sometimes at the post office, they generally tend to have better rates.
Thank you for coming, Destination Fun. I understand you have a live. We'll probably go over there afterwards. If you have time, go to Destination Fun's
Okay.
live
Okay.
stream after. We're coming up on our hour mark here, Mike. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Absolutely.
Appreciated you having here. We have been talking with Mike from the Mikey Story on how to maintain positivity and overcoming travel um, things. And so, with that, we're going to cut out, but I wanted to share one last slide here, which is remember, there's no shortcuts to any place worth going. I really like that quote. And I think that is an overall theme that we need to remember while traveling.
Yes.
We're going to be wrapping up the show. As we wrap up this show, I'd like to thank you for coming. Is there anything you would like to tell our viewers before we end this live stream?
Sure. For those of you who are interested in traveling, all I can say to you is always keep an open mind. That's number one, because you'd be surprised to find out that a lot of times when you travel and you keep an open mind, you'd be surprised to find out that you can discover a lot of things. And sometimes the things that you're not looking for, you know, you're like, whoa, I never thought of that. And, that can open up your mind to a plethora of things, right? That's one thing. Another thing is if you are interested in traveling, it helps to do your research in terms of where you're going, what it's about, food, blah, 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 all these things. So at least you're prepared in the sense that you know what you're getting yourself into. And just like with what John was talking about in his experience, that, had he exchanged the money beforehand, or at least if had he kind of done some sort of research, he could have avoided all of that, had the money, and he wouldn't have to think about nothing other than just jumping in the cab, getting into the hotel, and it's like, all right, so let's go see what Guatemala is about, right?
For sure.
And another thing I can think of is just remember that you're not guaranteed uh, anything in life. And here's why I'm saying this, because today you could be thinking of, I would love to do this and this and this and this and this and this and this, right? And for every time you've said that, and the days have passed by, and you've done nothing about it, then slowly you can lose that thought, right?
Yep.
So, why am I saying this? I'm saying this because if you feel as though you would like to travel to whatever it is, then you have nothing to lose, then just go for it. If it means you take $5 and you save $5 at a time, that $5 will add up, okay? So that you can get to that trip. Even if it means you're having whatever negative thoughts it is, try to tell yourself, just go for it. Because a lot of times when you take yourself out of the negative thinking and you just get going, you realize, man, I should have done this in the first place. Yeah. But anyways,
Well, we got to go. Our hour's up. Thank you so much for coming on, Mike. I appreciate it. This has been the Pedroza Travel talking about maintaining positivity, and we have welcomed the